All right, let's talk about some wide cutters. Wide cutters. All right. Try to get some a rub pattern on camera for you, and I'm gonna do a little explanation here. I wanted to show you. Normally, like let's say on a regular cutter, okay. I'm gonna do my ugly drawing here. Okay. So here's a wide cutter. Here is a regular A5 cutter. We know on an A5 cutter we normally end up with a scratch pattern or a rub block pattern that looks something like this, where just the tips, and then the rub pattern will kind of round down on the corners a little bit so you can see your hollow. And then on the back rail back here, you'll see a little bit of contact here, a little bit of contact here, and it represents this whole open area in the middle that is hollow ground to allow the hair that may get in between the comb and the cutter to be evacuated, or to not push these blades apart or bind them up in any way. So that's what we're looking for, is contact just at the tips and then back in the corners back here to hover that cutter and that comb together to allow for the hollow in the middle. Now on the wide cutters, what I'm noticing is, instead of having the normal hollow pattern like this, where you can see this whole area open in the middle, what I'm finding is a lot of guys are having troubles getting these blades to cut on the tips, on the outside tips. And I think that's more overly about magnet placement. I like to place my magnet as far forward on the cutter, or maybe shift it just a smidgen forward on the cutter compared to what you do on a regular A5, because that allows you to get the natural, when you set your magnet down, it allows you to get plenty of front pressure on that thing so that you can keep the corners flush as you navigate across the radius. But what I'm noticing is when I get a cutter that doesn't cut, I don't have problems out here on the corners. Because what happens with a wide cutter is you end up with a pattern more like this. It's almost a wave pattern. You're going to have a lot of contact in the middle of the cutter. You're going to have contact out here on the corners. But where I have a problem getting them to cut at times is here and here, in between the W of this wave pattern. Now I'll show you this this theory or this premise in action over here as we get over on the machine. So like I say, we're going to have a good contact out here at the corner if you have your magnet placement far enough forward. I don't want to have to use my hand pressure to really push forward down on the back or on the front of the blade, because if I do that, what I have is I end up lifting off and or rounding the teeth just a smidgen. And I'm not talking about rounding them off where it looks where you can see it physically with the eye that much, but you end up getting kind of a roll to the blade, because you can come back and get it again, and you can see it as it's re-cleaning the blade if you get too much front pressure on it. What I like to do is, like I say, move my magnet just a smidgen forward from what I would normally do on a regular A5 cutter, and then I'm concentrating as I'm going across the radius and keeping the blade flush and in line. Because if you tilt the blade this way or this way, and I'll show you this again, like I say, once I actually go to the plate there a little better on the plate, you're going to miss a corner. So if you're missing the absolute corners over here, I think it's more of a placement on the radius or your magnet placement on the cutter itself. And let me go over to the plate and I'll demonstrate that for you, and we'll get a look at it in real time. Also, another thing is you want to make sure that your plate is freshly dressed, man. Because if you've got a spot on the plate that doesn't have good grit, you can throw all these things out the window. You need to make sure that you got plenty of grit coverage all the way over the plate. And then let me give you a look at this thing as I come across it. Let me see if I can set my camera up where I can show you some things. Okay, like I was telling you, I've got my, let me get where I can see. I've got my magnet plate pretty far forward on this cutter, more so than what I may see or what I may do on a regular A5 cutter, because that way, naturally, when I sit down, the pressure is further forward, and then I just have to maintain it flush. Now, when I go to the plate, as we were talking about before, my laser is going to be right there in the middle of the synapse between the front and rear rail. That's where I'm going to want to be as I'm coming across or going across the radius. And anything that you have issue-wise as you're traveling this radius across here, if you do this way or that way, it's even more magnified, or it shows up more on this wider blade. The difference in how you set. So you really want to be accurate with a wide cutter. I set down at the middle of the plate, like so, and then I'm just going to come on across. I'm only going to make about 4 or 5 passes here. I'm even pressure, stop, push down, and come off. I've heard that Jason from Edge Pro did a video, and he's talking about when you find wherever you're going to pull, wherever you're going to stop, when you come back and when you get to your stop position, you're going to want to put just a smidgen of more pressure and hold for about half a second, and then pull with everything in line. This way on the radius, everything right where you want to be, and then pull, because that last little half second there before you pull the plate, man, that's everything. When you're traversing the radius, you're not doing the same grind on the inside of the plate as you're on the outside of the plate. You're populating this whole blade in conjunction as you go across that radius to come out with a good solid grind. And I'm gonna blow this thing off, and then we're gonna go to, all right, now let's go to the rub block and see if I can show you a rub pattern here. Let me get something to prop this up just a little bit. All right, I've done the videos on the rub pattern before. I come straight off the plate. I don't really do anything but air blow the cutter off. I don't wipe it down or do any of that stuff. You want to make sure your rub block is good and clean. I use brake cleaner. I know some people say it's caustic and they don't want to use that, but do something to make sure there's no grease on this plate, and I just touch it with my fingers like an idiot. Let me do it. Let me clean that one more time here. I mean, the cleaner your rub block is, the better you're going to be able to see your rub pattern. It makes it so much easier to get that little ghostly haze going. You got a good, clean, dry rub block. All right, so I'm going to go straight to my rub block after I came off the plate, right? And I'm going slow with this, so I don't do this every single time. But anyway, all right. So we're going to get our rub pattern, and then we're going to see if I can actually make it show up on camera. All right. I can see it. Let me see if I can find a lot here. Let me get just a little bit burned in, just a little bit better there. Maybe it'll show up better in the light. Okay, I'm going to back up here and see if I can find a spot. You can see the back rail, see kind of out towards the corner out there, how you have a contact out there. That's kind of the same as a regular A5. You got contact in the corners, and then the hollow in the middle there, you don't see much contact. Let me see if I can find this W pattern that I'm talking about. If I can show it, I can see it. I know there's a way to show it. Okay, on the right hand side of the blade, you see how you can see the corner, the contact comes down over there, and then see it kind of goes up, and then right in the middle you get a better contact. Man, I wish I could show that a little better. Where's my light? Okay, either way, if you look on the right hand side, you see how you can see that hollow right there? It's a W-shaped hollow on these blades, guys. That right hand side, I can see it very clearly. But when I have a blade that doesn't cut, it's not that it's missing from the very far corner. It's in the middle of this little mini hollow here, and like I say, the rub pattern on these wides kind of does an undulation out here in the middle, and I think it's because as you're applying pressure to the plate, you're physically flexing this blade a little bit, and it doesn't take much to flex it, you know. And when you flex it, you're pushing down harder, not much, but in the middle. And the width of this blade, it's going to make the center of the blade, the cutter sag some, and that's why we end up with kind of a contact out here, and then a little bit of a hollow, and then in the middle, as you're pushing down on the blade just a smidgen, it's pushing that blade, so you're going to get a real good contact right in the middle, and then it's going to hollow back out to here. If everything was perfect, you'd get just a straight hollow. But because of pressure in the middle, that's why I like a wider magnet. The wider you can spread those magnets across, I think I'm even going to try to come up with a split mag where the magnets out here, contacts out here and out here in the middle of these sections to see if I can't straighten this W out of these blades a little bit. If you've got a magnet already and you're using that does this better, I want to see the design of it, because that's something that I'm about to be working on when I'm doing, I've got a 3D printer now. Let's start 3D printing these knobs, but that's a little further in the future. But anyway, so here's what's up. Let's discuss this if anybody cares to chime in. But you're going to have good contact out here at the corners. If you move your magnet forward just a little bit on the cutter, stay straight on your radius as you're coming across, because like I say, this or that on the radius, and you're going to miss a corner. If it's further back and that one's further forward, you're going to have a problem with whichever side you're missing your accuracy on. You got to be straight on the radius as you come across, right? And magnet forward where you get the tips and you get the front of the blade without having to really maneuver the magnet forward. That causes issues too. But you're going to end up, like I say, with kind of a W-shaped pattern. And for me, here in the middle of this portion and in the middle of this portion is where I'm going to have an issue if I have a wide blade that doesn't cut. If you're not catching it at the corners, that's another whole discussion altogether. But kind of a long video, but if you got anything out of it, great. I wish I could have showed you a little better the rub pattern. Let me get in a different light and see if it shows up over here in a different... I really wanted to show you that W. Let me try one more time over in this other light. Nah, it just doesn't want to show up for me. Anyway, it's worth discussing. I hope you guys got some ideas, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, and let's discuss it, guys. Thanks. Later.